Hey, I'll tell you, man, all the media guys and everybody in town, man, when you went in the NovaCare Center, man, did you notice that Bob Lang and all the guys had they had the nuclear hazmat suits on. They were cleaning up and everything, and everybody shoveling like, you know, atomic waste out. I don't know. They're gonna have to put a bubble they may have to put a bubble over the NovaCare Center, like they did Chernobyl. I'm not sure. So I know my friend doesn't want to bubble over him when he talks. Our good friend Tone joins us now.
Big Sales, what's going on, sir?
So I'm wondering, man. So like when you talk to Rob and you guys get yourself all built up and you're trying to get out of it, then you listen to me like this guy brings me right back into this bullshit again.
It's all rather stressful, right? I mean,
yeah, but here's the problem, Tone. They daily are now adding to the fire.
Yeah.
Okay, if you just left well enough alone.
I don't think they realize it though.
They don't.
They
you say something all the time, Tone. They don't have self-awareness.
Like, think about it. You're in a press conference and you openly say, yeah, we run things the same way this year, last year, and the year before that. Really? Exactly the same way? Yep, exactly the same way. That's what he said. So I look at the Philadelphia Eagles as a team that's underperforming way below the talent surface. And especially on the offensive side. On the defensive side, at least you can point out some excuses, right? Linebacker, of course, that's been killing you every single year for the most part. The D-line has slowed down. The DBs, the corners, to be specific, either can't stay healthy or they're too old. The safety position, I like Reed Blankenship. I like who he is. I like what he brings to the table. But Kevin Byard, I'm still unsure if he has anything left. He's only made the Kansas City Chiefs play. Obviously, Nicholas Morrow, Zach Cunningham, and Shaq Leonard, they're Band-Aids that aren't meant for the long term. The only two things about the Philadelphia Eagles defense, in my opinion, that has the brightest future are the D-tackle group and potentially the edge rusher group on defense. Other than that, the rest of this defense can be divided and conquered in any sort of way.
I'd fire the whole unit except for the guys you named. I'd fire the whole entire unit except for Sweat, Reddick, 2 tackles. Everyone.
Yeah.
I'll keep Fletcher.
If I'm going to keep
and Milton Williams.
That's why I said the whole group. But the one DB I would keep Sidney Brown and try to groom the hell out of him. I would try to develop as much as I can because he has these raw. Yeah. He has these raw abilities that I feel like if he gets the right person in front of him, you could probably turn him into something dangerous.
What'd you say just now?
You know what I said.
Get the right person in front of him?
Get the right person in front of him.
Isn't he in Baltimore now?
Yes, he is. So again, the defensive side obviously has.
There he goes doing it again to me.
has many more things to take care of, but offensively, you look how much talent is sprinkled all over the place. It's malpractice at its finest. And again, how can you get the most out of guys like that when you're doing the same thing every single year?
Tone, Hurts, more attempts, more completions, more yards passing, more touchdowns. Swift, career across the board. Attempts, yards, touchdowns. Brown, first receiver in Eagle history to have 100 catches. I'm trending to 115 and 1,600 yards. Devontae's going to have more touchdowns than any year. He's going to equal it. This will be the second year in a row that he goes over 90 catches, and the second of the 3 years that he goes over 1,000. What's the problem here? Again, I feel like I'm constantly saying the same shit over and over again. What's the common denominator? You know what that is? Incompetence around these fellas.
Yeah,
this is not the play. This is not there is nothing wrong with that offense
at all,
except the people around it.
Exactly. Like sure, the O-line is a bit old in certain spots, but overall,
and it's been inconsistent because of the injuries that have gone in and out of the lineup,
especially at right guard. Yes.
And maybe Kelsey slowing down a bit, and Lane has been hurt too.
Right. So there have been moments where it's been Landon Dickerson has been hurt as well. He's missed
Yes.
some snaps. So that entire offensive line, except for the left tackle spot, has sort of been going through the either the injury or fatigue revolving door. Kelsey, obviously he's been healthy, but he's doing
Yeah,
things.
I see it.
He's still playing at a high level.
He is. There's a
But
couple. I think the penalties have been because
yeah,
of the fatigue more so than his ability this year.
he's
So I
had
think it's more that than anything.
he's had
Hurts has been sacked, I believe, 33 times this year.
yeah, I believe so. Jason Kelsey, he's had 2 damning false starts in this, this season. Now he's had more than one, but I can name 2 that was damning. The false start in the Bills game that set back the drive where they were going to score in the fourth quarter, and they had to set up for the field goal. Remember?
Mhm.
And it took an overtime. That's the first one. Actually, he had 2 false starts back to back on that drive. I take that back.
Yes.
He had 2 back to backs.
Critical too.
Critical. Killed the drive that you were literally going to score in the fourth quarter. You wouldn't have had overtime. You would have had less traction on that defense as well. So that those false starts, and then the one we saw just on Monday, where it immediately took points off the board. You were gonna get that first down because of the brotherly shove, and then you would have did it again and got a touchdown. Instead, false start pushes them to 4th and 5, 4th and 5, something like that, 4th and 6.
Yeah.
And then they got to settle for the field goal now. So now the score is 10-0 instead of 14-0 against the Seahawks. So the talent is clearly there. He's still quite athletic, but his is it instinct? Is that the word I'm using?
Yeah.
Is that the word I want to use? His instinct.
Well, they've taken the instinct out of the offense.
Well, I'm sorry. His fatigue has impacted his instinct.
Oh, yes.
And I think that's what those false starts are. And again, that's just me watching as a layman.
No.
So
You're correct. Hey, Tone, is it me? But is Nick Sirianni clumsy behind the mic?
what? Listen, man.
Is he not clumsy?
He's very he's very chatty. He's very chatty, and I don't like that. I said it a while back before the issues even came about. Remember, I said, "Look, my only issue with Nick Sirianni is he talks too much in these press conferences.
Why are you justifying that play?
There was no need to, if you ask me. All he had to do was say, "Look, the game plan was to get the ball in our best players' hands at a big crucial moment. Things didn't work out, but best believe we'll do a better job to make sure we're more prepared for
Why is
the
that so hard?
It's very easy, very easy.
Unless you're covering for someone.
Listen, when you ramble too long, you ever talk long enough to the point where you start to hear yourself? And you're like, "Oh no, wait, I'm kind of talking too much."
You're trying to overconvince someone. When you talk long like that, can I tell you what that is? When you talk long like that and you over-explain yourself, in my opinion, there's another motive that you're doing to try to over-explain shit. You're trying to justify somebody else's actions that are in the building, in my opinion. You're covering. Like when Nick goes like this, "Hey, we're doing the same shit we did last year, doing the same shit this year." Now, if I'm Brian Dable, I'm sitting there going like this, "Well, they're not going to do anything different. This is just something that they're not capable actually of doing anything different." I think that game is going to be close. I do think the Eagles win, but don't be shocked if they have a lead on you. I'll tell you this. If I were Brian Dable and the Giants, you know what I would want to do? Get a lead. Let's see what happens with that team that's gone through some chaos in the last 10 days. Let's see how they handle that on the sidelines and upstairs in the booth with all the people in the – I think he got too many mouths. When I opened the show today. So Desai is now making the game plan, and he has nothing to do with the in-game adjustments or the play calling. That's Patricia. And you have Nick. I mean, you have too many cooks in the kitchen here, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so weird. So how many?
Is that what they said he's doing? Is that what they said? Sean Desai is making the game plan?
Yeah. Desai's making the game plan. And get this. Think about this. You don't think that that's just one side of the ball they do that on. That's a philosophical mentality that you have on both sides of the ball. Nick comes up with the game plan, and Brian Johnson calls Nick's plays. That's why, Tone.
There's more checks and balances in the coaching staff than it is in the front office. That's insane.
The only people that have accountability are the players. And now they're even causing the players like Jalen Hurts to have to come back and walk back comments because they don't like the fact that it could be an innuendo that he's taking shots at the coaches and the organization. You know why they made that? They made him clarify so that he wasn't taking shots. They don't mind him taking shots at the players. He wanted them to clarify that. What he didn't want, and they didn't want, was they don't want taking shots at the coaches and organization.
I didn't really have too much of an issue.
You don't think it dilutes a comment that was made at the moment?
No, I'm not saying that it doesn't, because for me, it's as simple as, look, you heard what I said last night. That's me. That's my personality, right? But when I try to look at it from his perspective, the last thing I'm trying to do is create more conflict, more division, more
Don't you need
controversy
conflict right now? I mean, don't you need more accountability?
You need less controversy. I'll tell you that much. You definitely need less controversy. But as far as accountability, again, I don't mind him saying what he said at all. I don't mind him saying what he said at all.
The walk back or after the game?
After the game, and even, I mean, you call it walk back, walking it back. I guess I look at it as him trying to alleviate more controversy that's already been started.
Company guy.
Sometimes you got to go along to get along.
How long before he gets pissed off and gets enough? He's not going to allow what happened to him at Alabama happen to him in Philly. See, you got to remember something about Jalen Hurts here. Jalen Hurts has been primed to be fucked over and not be fucked over again. He's not going to have that happen. And we see this in the past with the Eagles. The money has no bearing on what they're capable of doing.
Yeah,
and Wentz out of town.
Yeah, seeing how the Wentz thing went told me that they don't care about a dollar amount. If they don't want something going on, they're going to exit out.
Power and control.
So that begs the question: how much influence, how much equity does Jalen Hurts need to achieve before he's able to push the buttons that he wants in order to get his desired result?
Do you know the easiest reason it was to run Wentz out of town? You know what is because Foles won. If he had won that Super Bowl, it'd have been harder to get him out of the building. But I'll say this, Tone. So all the things that you've seen and all the things that you've been going through over the last couple of years, and you're now seeing how this building is run. Do you really believe everything that they said about Carson Wentz? Oh, an organization that covers for everything and protects everyone.
Well, I never believed
they
everything.
Just let that narrative that he's a bad locker room guy. And they never stopped it like they do everything else.
Well, I've never believed everything they said about him. I generally do think he's a good dude. I just felt like,
man.
Yeah, I genuinely feel like he's a good dude. So I never believed everything they said about him, like the whole cancer thing. I think he was just a loner. He had
to be a leader.
He wasn't built to be that guy for this organization. You know what I mean?
Look where he came from.
Yeah, because again, I feel like cancer is the wrong language when it comes to him. I just felt like, and again, I roll with Carson Wentz to the bitter end. My biggest issue with Carson Wentz was there was a certain lack of accountability at times when it mattered most because of his situation. He always felt like he needed to protect himself.
Yeah.
And because he didn't establish those relationships in the building with his teammates and only really locking in on a certain group of guys, he never felt really compelled to really go down the distance for this team, especially when it came to his health. So that's just my opinion about it. I never really felt like he was a cancer or a bad dude, just a guy that wasn't meant to be here.
That's funny, man. So when they gave Wentz that money, did the organization and Wentz, did they act different after that money? Did the hero ball, because it looks like Jalen's playing hero ball now, feeling like he has to do a lot of things. I mean, did you think that they coached him and managed him differently, Wentz, after he got the money?
That's a good question. Wentz's situation is a little They're similar, but they're different, and this is why. Remember, the main thing that derailed Wentz at first was the health. So we never really got a chance to really see.
So the Eagles don't want Hurts to have that same issue that Wentz had early in his career or later in his career after the money. That's why they have him. And this is a theory, and this is why they're asking him to protect himself, because they don't want him to be banged up like Wentz got banged up. Interesting.
Here's the thing,
Huh.
Hurts is more mobile than Wentz. Hurts does a lot more running than Wentz, right? So when you bring in a guy like Wentz and you pay him and you see how he goes down and how he's kind of responding to the injury, things like that, it makes you skittish on the next guy. And then it makes you even more skittish. And then it makes you even more skittish, even though you paid him. You paid him because you had to pay him. Let's make that clear. They paid him because they had to pay him. And when you look at it from that perspective, a guy like Hurts, he moves around so much, knowing what you know about how they felt about Carson Wentz is moving around. And Wentz kind of it was a freak play. Wentz was a freak play. They're afraid for that to happen again. I know they are.
You see it.
It just happened. It wasn't that long ago.
No, you see it.
Right.
You see how he's playing.
Right. So,
remember from day one against
New England. So they're trying to turn him into a pure. And look, Jalen Hurts, statistically, he's one of the better pocket quarterbacks statistically. But he's had a very bad stretch of games, which has not shown that ability.
Leads the league in turnovers.
Case in point.
Okay. And something that I went back last night, watched 22. I counted 15 plays, Tone, that were easier throws that Hurts targeted, harder throws into double coverage and sideline throws with guys that were open underneath. I find it absolutely ridiculous to think he doesn't see that, because the guy standing
a lot of the times they're right there,
him, and he did it a year ago.
Yeah,
they're asking him to make more difficult throws this year. That's why the numbers are up.
A lot of his throws actually this year have been. Everything about this offense has been difficult this year. Right? Everything about this offense has been.
That's why he's holding the ball longer, because they're more difficult throws.
It's funny. Literally, it seems like he spent so much time trying to make this big play, and I asked myself, "Well, the guy's right there." Or when you watched all 22, you're like, "Okay, is he going?" You try to figure out, is he going through his progressions? Is he? Nope. Is he immediately locking in on one guy? Like,
yep. He's locked in on one guy because they're telling him to be locked. Last year,
he's better than what we're seeing right now. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Absolutely better. And I'll tell you why. Shane Steichen last year had a better feel for Hurts in the game. And he had a better feel for the guys that were open. And he would not have a problem with him going underneath. Actually, if you look at it last year, you looked at the percentage of the completion percentage, and Steichen was looking more at that's the number I look at. And when you start to see those numbers declining, it's because they're more difficult throws. Look at the throws. If you look at Matthew Stafford's completion percentage, he's at 61.9. You know why? Those are some of the most complex offensive passing routes that you could possibly have under Sean McVay.
Hold on, Big Seals, listen to this. I just thought about something. You know how Nick Sirianni says, this is my offense and this is how it's been this year, last year, and the year before that, right? You know how he said that, right? The offensive coordinator for the first 2 years was Shane Steichen. When they went 2-5, it was due to Nick Sirianni calling the plays. Remember, he said this is always his game plan every single year. They're doing the exact same things, right? So Shane Steichen is your OC. You start off 2-5 because of you calling the plays. You guys change responsibilities as far as who's calling the plays, and all of a sudden, your game plan, your offense looks entirely different. So again, now we enter year 3 of the Nick Sirianni era. Shane Steichen's gone. The game plan has been the same this year, last year, and the year before. But we have a new coordinator. Coordinators call the plays. Calling the plays require a certain feel, a certain instinct, a certain gut or ingenuity, right? Yet the result is different, but the game plans are the same. So where is the common denominator of this issue?
It's the play caller.
Nick Sirianni says it's my offense.
Yeah.
Don't blame Brian. But it's the same game plan that was being executed by someone else, and they were producing. It's being executed by a new guy, and it's not producing.
It's
So, Nick,
unfair.
you're trying to cover for Brian.
Johnson.
It is unfair.
It's unfair what they did to him by thrusting him in a role that he had very little experience at, where you needed massive experience. Let me tell you, Shane Steichen had worked with Frank and Rivers, and those guys, he had been around. I mean, he is, I'm wrong, he's a great play caller because you're seeing it in Indy now.
And remember, Shane was the reason Justin Herbert took that leap.
Absolutely.
When he was in San Diego or Los Angeles, wherever they were stationed at the time. He took that leap. Shane Steichen was his OC at that time, correct?
Yep. I'm just telling you, man, that, and when Nick comes out and goes, "This is my offense," well, now I know how they do business. When I'm hearing that Sean Desai puts the defensive game plan together and Patricia calls his game plan, and then you have to think that Nick puts the game plan together on that side of the room,
right?
And Brian calls Nick's game plan. What kind of shit is that?
Unless let's really do some conspiracy theorizing, right? Unless, yeah, they are Nick Sirianni's play. It's Nick Sirianni's playbook, right?
Yeah.
But maybe, just maybe, and remember, he said he comes up with the game plan this year, right? We've never really heard him say that before prior to this year, but he said he comes up with the game plan. What if, yeah, they're his plays, but what if in year 1 and year 2 with Shane Steichen, what if it was Shane Steichen's game plan? Nick Sirianni's plays, but Shane Steichen's game plan.
It probably is that.
And therefore, and also he executed his own game plan.
Makes sense on why that offense is not evolving, is because the guy who invented it is not there.
So then you have Brian Johnson this year. This is Nick Sirianni's game plan, but Brian is just calling the plays. Now we have a dissonance.
No, you have the 2-5. You have the 2-5 offense.
Right. Now we have a disconnect between the person who executed the game, the person who's calling the game plan, or I'm sorry, the person who developed the game plan, and then the person who executed the game plan. Whereas though the first 2 years, and again, this is me conspiracy theorizing. Instead, the first 2 years, you had a guy in Shane Steichen who not only came up with the game plan, he executed it. So now there's no disconnect. Now you got two voices. One guy making the game plan, one guy calling it. The first 2 years, you had one guy making it and the same guy calling it. What if that's what is going on right now?
I got to ask you something. How do you see this offense and defense in 2 years?
You know what?
What?
I look at it like this. I'm a Jalen Hurts guy, and I have to believe that in 2 years he's gonna have more say so what's going on in front of him. I have to believe that.
Has any player in that organization ever had say?
There was one guy who ruined it. He had a chance to be that guy, but he ruined it. And I think that was Donovan McNabb. Because remember, the whole T.O. situation, that whole debacle was messy. And McNabb still moved around that building the way he moved, and he felt how he felt, and nobody could tell him anything. Right? What's more freedom than that?
No.
So then on top of that, they get rid of the guy for you too. So that sounds like a guy who had some kind of say. He just had to pout a little bit.
That's because Andy allowed it.
So you think they're going to allow something like? See, they've learned from these.
You think they're going to allow Hurts to have say in the organization? I think he's the next Doug P.
I think if they want him in the building still, they're going to allow him to have an opinion. Because if what you're saying is true, if this turns out the way you're a
5-win team in 2 years.
If this turns out the way you think it may, if I'm Jalen Hurts, I'm taking my ball and trying to find an organization that's going to maximize my skill set. So
I'm going to Pittsburgh.
So, and again, that's super far in the future. And we
Yeah,
have no idea what can
what I'm
happen. But
saying
it's
is,
something that you have to consider if you're thinking about this team critically.
and get this, it's not the talent. It's nobody in my locker room that I'm pissed off at. I'm pissed off the way that you have too many people inside the kitchen cooking something that we have no clarity. Would you not agree that on both sides of the football, the one thing that we can, if you had use a word, the word that's lacking is clarity on what you're doing. If
I
you
would
want to
agree.
use the word
Clarity is a good
identity,
word.
if you
Clarity
want
is
to
a good
use the
word.
word identity, clarity, last year roles were defined last year.
They were
Everyone
crystal.
had a role.
They were crystal last year.
You know what? Let me here, and I bring this team up because it's one of my favorite teams of all time. It's the '98 Bulls. Rodman, rebounder. Pippen was the guy who was the Swiss Army knife. Jordan, scored, defender, leader. The pivot man, whether you had on the box there, whether you had Horace Grant or you had Rodman, or in the center spot, you had Cartwright, you had Longley, then you had Kukoc added in. Everyone had a role and knew their role. And when you have a team that's defined in roles, it's easy to show up to work. That's what 22 was. When you show up to work today, it's not the players don't have roles, the coaches don't. What's Matt Patricia's role? What's Shane? What's Sean Desai's role? What's Brian Johnson's? They have not defined roles except for management.
I'm willing to push back on the fact that they've defined roles in management. You want to know why? Because you got Howie Roseman thinking he's a football guy. So obviously they haven't really defined the roles all over the board. Look, here's the thing. There, as of right now, all we can do is see how this thing plays out. Does it have the brightest outlook right now because of everything we've seen, we've experienced, we've watched play out on and off the field? Does it have the brightest outlook? I don't think so by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm willing to say that as of right now, they're going to go into the playoffs, and all they can do is take it one matchup at a time and go 1-0 that week. Have they proven that they can hang with the 49ers or the Cowboys? They have not. At this point, they have not proven that. Now, did they split with the Cowboys? Absolutely. But teams change, people change. And right now, the Cowboys are playing better football than the Eagles. So right now, the Philadelphia Eagles are entering the playoffs with no credibility as a football team. They're entering the playoffs with people looking at them as pretenders. But they have an opportunity to do something about it. Now, all they can do is play up to their talent. The defense is the weakest link. It's no question about it. The offense, that's the only part of the ball where you can look and say something can actually change. They have an opportunity to establish momentum and establish a certain pacing and rhythm to the offense over the next 3 weeks. That's the most they can get out of these games. We're not looking at the Philadelphia Eagles as championship contenders if they beat the Giants or the Cardinals. That's not how we're gauging them. The best they can hope for over the next 3 weeks, the best we can hope for as spectators, is for a team that can somehow establish a rhythm, a pace, and an identity on offense. And then they can potentially take that into the playoffs with some kind of confidence.
Well, as the judge here on the Dan Sileo show, January 14th is your date of execution. That's the beginning of the wild card for the playoffs. That's your execution date.
Oh, so you think they're on the wild card?
Yeah.
Okay, really quickly. I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk to you about the
Rams.
That's what I'm trying to get to. So as of right now, if everything holds right now, the 49ers are the 4 seed. I'm sorry, the 49ers are the 1 seed. Cowboys are the 2 seed. Lions are 3. Bucks 4. Eagles 5. Vikings 6. Rams 7. Now, if everything holds, 49ers gets the bye. Dallas will play the Rams in the first round. Detroit will play the Vikings, and the Bucks will play the Eagles. Now, the Bucks are a different team today, if you ask me.
They are.
I like how Baker Mayfield is playing, but I still think that's a game the Philadelphia Eagles can eke out. The division around us is where I think things fall apart.
You just lost to Drew Lock.
No, I understand.
Do you?
I understand.
I mean,
Yeah,
Drew Lock is a backup.
We've spoken a lot. Yeah, I think I understand what you mean.
I mean, you just lost to Drew Lock.
Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing.
You're giving them the benefit of the doubt still. That's where you and I differ. I don't give them the benefit of the doubt.
But here's the thing, though. My benefit of the doubt may not be as low as yours, but mine has moved a drastic distance.
Oh, it does. Oh, hey, I know this.
Remember, I was talking.
Years have been burned a long time ago now.
Remember, I was talking about Super Bowl.
Hey, no.
Now I'm talking about if they get out of the divisional round.
Get this. That's a big way, though. They were trending that way. This is self-sabotage.
Yeah.
That has to be the most frustrating thing on the entire planet, is that 14 days ago, that team was 10-1 or something like that, 10-2. And now all of a sudden, it's a complete nuclear meltdown. And get this, it's not so much even on the field. It's more this charade of lies that here, I'll tell you this. I'm more shocked about the organization than I am about the record now and the players in the locker room. Do you think there's more chaos right now with Nick than there was with Doug at the end?
You see, for Doug, Sirianni's only in year 3. You could probably make an argument that the adversity is hitting sooner.
Huh.
But I don't know.
What was 18? Take me back to 18. What was that like for Doug and Howie?
So 18 wasn't a bad season. 18 was a season where you were plagued by injuries, and Carson Wentz wasn't really playing up to the standard because he was nursing a back injury. So remember, he came back from the LCL, ACL, and MCL tear. He tore it in the 2017 season against the Rams when they were playing at the Rose Bowl, right? So the following season, Wentz didn't start off. Foles started the season. I think Foles played the first 2 or 3 games. I remember because the game Carson Wentz came back, I went to that game. It was Eagles versus Colts. I think that was week 4, maybe week 5. And they won the game, but as the season progressed, Wentz was overcompensating physically. You saw a disconnect between the mechanics and the production, so on and so forth.
Right off an injury like that, you know.
So
you're usually better the next year because you're still
I think he rushed himself back.
Okay.
And then to take it a step further, he hurt his back that season.
The money.
So they shut him down. They shut him down with a back fracture. They shut him down for the rest of the season. Foles comes in. Eagles managed to win some games, get into the playoffs, I believe, with a 9-8 record.
Yep.
They got into the playoffs. 9-7. They got him with a 9-7 record. First round, they beat the Bears.
Yep.
The double doink game. Second round, divisional round.
You lost to the Saints.
You lost to the Saints. If I strongly believe if Jeffrey catches that ball, that sets things in motion.
Yep. Wentz would have been traded.
So when I think about how that went in 2018, I don't think things were off the cliff for Doug quite yet. Not quite. And that was year 3. Nick Sirianni, he's experiencing some turbulence on the back end of year 3. They both experienced it, but it was different. Here's the difference. The turbulence that Doug Peterson experienced was external, meaning injury at the quarterback position. Nick Sirianni, his issues this year, internal. Dysfunction amongst the coaching staff and the front office and the quarterback. So they both had turbulent 2018s, but different situations. One was external, meaning injury. One was internal, meaning internal conflict and dysfunction.
When did you see the disconnect with Doug and Howie start to become public? Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start keeping an eye on that as we move forward here, because this is where I think that Bozo Sirianni is going to go longer and be able to weather through it longer. Because you know why? He's more of a company guy Doug started building up autonomy with the Super Bowl, and he felt more empowered. So he was going to put his foot down in some situations with coaching, maybe some personnel, assistant coaches, like I said. When did it become adversarial between Howie and him? Do you think behind the scenes, Doug wanted Foles, and that's what splintered the relationship? Was that he wanted Foles, or was it that maybe they wanted to do something? Because remember, Jeffrey Lurie picked Foles in the draft. That's the owner's pick, and he won the MVP versus the GOAT. Could that have been behind the scenes in your
remember,
opinion?
Chip, I think
Some
Chip
of the stress.
didn't Chip draft. No.
Oh, I
Chip,
thought the owner came in and wanted him.
I thought Chip drafted Foles.
No, it could have been during when Chip was there, but I thought Jeffrey Lurie wanted.
he has to sign off on it, right? So
yeah, I thought he wanted him.
I don't remember exactly how that went, but I know they drafted him, and all of a sudden he wins your Super Bowl, and now you're looking at it like, wait, is this the guy? Did I make a mistake with that money, with that contract? Well, actually, they didn't pay him at that time. He was in the second year of the rookie deal. But you're sitting there looking at yourself, wow, did I make a mistake with the guy I drafted? This guy won a Super Bowl. But again, I think no one will question who's more talented, Carson Wentz or Nick Foles. Carson Wentz is more talented.
Get the money?
Wentz got the money. Give me 1 second. I got 19? It right here. I think he got it at the end of the 28. Actually, no. If basing it off of this, he got it at the end of the 2018 season, because remember, the team always has the opportunity to pick up that 50-year option.
To him hurt?
I believe so, yeah. They gave it to him in that offseason, I think. Let me look up the contract exactly when it started.
They gave him that contract when he was hurt.
Let's see here. All right, so here we go. He signed
to the table.
He signed a 4-year, $128 million contract with the Eagles in 2019. Well, it was scheduled to take effect in 2019. So he signed it on. Here we are. Okay. He signed the contract on June 6, 2019. That's when it was reported. And also, they picked up his option in 2019. So that lines up with rookie year 2016, 17, 18, 19. Okay, so they signed him in the offseason after his option.
They had to make a decision, like Senor said.
Before the option
on him because his deal was up on his rookie contract.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, had to make a deal on him.
Yeah, because remember the 2019 season, he picked up the option. He picked up the option going into the 4th year. You always got to pick up your option before the 4th year starts, and that's what happened. The Eagles picked up the option on April 29th, 2019, and then they signed him to a 4-year, $120 million contract. And guess what? In that same offseason, I believe they drafted Andre Dillard in the 1st round. Let me make sure I got that right as well, because a lot of those moves kind of led to the situation we're talking about.
Oh yeah,
Andre Dillard. Yep, that was the offseason. They drafted Andre Dillard in the 1st round, and he ended up getting pretty much benched again.
Who was the second, third rounders in that draft?
Let's see here.
Was Sweat in that draft?
No, Sweat was in the 2018 draft.
Okay.
Sweat was in the 2018 draft.
So that 19 draft that Dillard was in, who was in that draft?
I'll tell you right now. All right, here we go. The 2019 season, you had Andre Dillard, Miles Sanders, J.J. Arthur-Whiteside, Sharif Miller, Sharif Miller and Clayton Thorson. Sharif Miller and Clayton Thorson and J.J. Arthur-Whiteside are no longer in the NFL. Andre Dillard got benched, and Miles Sanders doesn't even have 500 yards rushing in Carolina.
You gave a guy off an injury almost a max deal, $38 million a year, and you drafted nobody. How'd you think that thing was okay? How did you think that thing was going to go?
And then the following season, going into the 2020 season, which was
Doug's
the
final season.
which was his final season, everyone's final season, Doug and Carson. They top it off with drafting Jalen Reagor, Jalen Hurts, Davion Taylor at linebacker, Kevon Wallace at safety, Jack Driscoll the guard, John Hightower at receiver, Sean Bradley at linebacker, Quez Watkins, and Prince Tega at tackle, and Casey Toohill at edge. And Casey Toohill is still playing football for the Commanders at a high level. I think he's a rotational edge rusher. So they let him walk before the season even started and didn't give him a chance to really get on the field. Meanwhile, he's causing damage with the Commanders. So again, another draft where the only person still here, Jalen Hurts, that's one guy. Jack Driscoll, Sean Bradley, he's on IR, but he's not going to be here much longer. And you got Quez Watkins. So you got 4 players from this draft.
Two years.
Say that again?
You have 4 players from 18 and 19.
No, but let me see. 18, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes. So 2018, you kept 4 players from that draft. Granted, they only drafted 5, but you kept 4 of them. And the 2020 season, and the 2019 year, no longer none of these guys on your roster in 2019. And 2020 draft, only 4 guys are still on your roster: Hurts, Driscoll, Sean Bradley, Quez Watkins. And quite honestly, 2 of those guys are no longer going to be here probably in the next 2 years or so, probably next year. So
how are you going to build a team around Carson Wentz when you were failing miserably in the draft?
Yeah. So 20, and then after that point, he's gone. So
in those 2 years in 18 and 19, did they bring anybody free agency in? Was that a Darius Slay? Did he come in 19? No, he didn't come in 19.
No, Darius Slay, I think he did come
21.
in 2019.
He came into 21. The offseason of 21. No, the preseason of 21. He came in like when the Lions let him loose because of the cap.
No, I think he was there before that.
19?
I think he came in 2020. Let me double check though.
So Doug's final season, he played for Doug?
Yes, he did play for Doug.
Okay.
Yeah, he came in 2020. He was 29 at the time. And he was playing good football. But then he really had his best year.
Last year.
His best year was 2022.
Yeah.
In 2021,
you can make the argument 21.
In 2021, he pretty much had similar stats a little bit. It's like statistically, 2021 is probably the better year. But nonetheless, though, they didn't really they never really done enough for Carson Wentz, if you ask me. They never did enough. That's why they're trying to repent with Jalen Hurts. All those moves they made, like the difference in those draft classes from like 28, like the Jalen Hurts draft classes and the Carson Wentz draft classes is no comparison.
But you know what? If you think about it, the last 2 years, Cam Jurgens is a decent player. We don't really know what he is yet. I think he's good. I don't think he's Andre Dillard. Let's see. Carter and Davis look like somebody. The other guys are projects. Nolan Smith is on a milk carton somewhere.
Yeah,
every guy they've drafted has been a project outside of Davis and Carter. Is that right?
I saw that everyone's been a project except for that's a good.
That's 2 years.
In the last 2 years.
2 years, yes.
Okay. The last 2 years. Let's see, Jalen Carter. Yeah, you're right. Over the past 2 years, you drafted 13 players. I'm sorry, I'll take that back. You drafted, let me see here. 6, 7, plus 5. You drafted 12 players in the past 2 seasons.
And you're getting production out of 2.
And out of 2 of them, out of that, only 2 of them are really making an immediate impact. Cam Jurgens can't stay on the field right now. He should be back, but he can't stay on the field. So
5 wins. It's the same shit. This is the same shit. Hey, let me ask you this.
Let me ask you this question though. what's the average hit rate on a draft for it to be considered successful? It's based off of how many players you draft, right, compared to how many that hit, right?
Remember something, you're not looking for all pros, you're looking for starters
Right.
and impact players that can play for you and rotation guys that can help you.
Right.
Okay.
So if I draft,
If you get 3 guys per draft that can help your football team yearly, you're doing very well.
does that number 3 change depending on how many players you draft, or
Yes.
it has to be 3?
No, because if you draft 5 and you get 1, the averages are still in your favor because you just got less people to pick from. But you have to remember something, Tone. Also, it's the quality of pick. Here's what I would ask you.
Value, right.
Value. Here's the first, second, and third rounders that they have drafted over the last couple of years those are your premium picks.
Okay, I'm glad you said that.
Okay, those are the premium picks.
Because I want to ask you something. We all know, I think you and I both know, O-linemen, they don't reach their prime until about
early 30s.
Age 29, 30,
Somewhere
31.
there, late
Right.
20s, early
Yeah.
30s. Sure.
Right. So, all right. So let's just say guys don't hit the prime until between 28 and 32.
Yep.
Right. That's fair.
Yep.
So, in their first 3 picks, the Philadelphia Eagles, for the first 3 picks in the 2023 and the 2022 draft, right? Think about their first 3 picks, regardless of round, because they have more first rounders in certain rounds. So, but forget about the round. In their first 3 picks in 2022, they drafted Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, and Nakobe Dean. I'm willing to argue that's a 2 out of 3 hit.
Yeah, that's
because Cam Jurgens, even though he's battling a little bit of an injury bug right now, in the grand scheme of things, at age 28, 29, how good can he be? What do you think his ceiling is?
I don't know yet.
It may not be Kelsey, obviously, but do you think he can develop based on what we've seen? Because remember, we only seen him at right guard. He's going to be their center
because of the coach. But you're missing one important thing here with those 3 men. Say those 3 men again.
Oh, so okay. So what I'll do is I'll give you the 3 from 2022 and the 3 from 2023.
Give me the top. Give me the 3.
So the top 3 picks in the last 2 drafts, 2022, you had Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, Nakobe Dean.
Who was the most important player of those 3 names that was going to be a signature person?
Jordan Davis.
We're going to count on the most.
Jordan
when
Davis.
It came to helping your defense the most. Who
Jordan
was
Davis.
going to help you?
That's Jordan Davis.
That's Jordan Dean. No, that's Nakobe Dean. Dean,
okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. You're
Nakobe
talking about the linebacker position.
On to run the defense.
Okay, see, I was confused. I didn't know you were talking about just the value of the player.
The quarterback is more value than, say, Jordan Davis. Even though Jordan Davis may be and I'm not saying he's better than Jalen. I'm saying sometimes you look at players and you look at just their athletic ability and you go, he's a defensive tackle. Well, one thing we know this about the Eagles, they're not going to pay $20 million. So they kind of value it. They'll pay for that position, but they're not going to go psycho. That guy, Nakobe Dean, was being counted on to come in and be a signature piece in the future of the defense, and he was supposed to be behind Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. They were supposed to create the new triangle that they had with Hargrave and Cox and TJ Edwards. Well, they got the front line right, but they didn't get the back end right. They gambled. They let the money they let the money rule them.
No, I understand what you're saying, but remember, we were talking about, their ability to kind of find talent, right?
Okay.
And Nakobe Dean was a miss so far. So far, that's a miss.
No, but the other 2, if you get 2 or 3,
I think the bigger issue.
The names, you're good.
I lost you. Say it again.
If I think Cam Jurgens is going to be a good football player, and Davis is somebody. So I think you hit on 2 of the 3. I think that's a good ratio.
Right, and then you go to 2023. Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Tyler Steen. I think Tyler Steen is going to develop nicely. He has some tools. He has size. I like him. Then you have Jalen Carter, obviously. Nothing needs to be said about that.
No.
And then Nolan Smith. What is he? So we're seeing a trend here. The trend is they're missing at defense. They're missing at defense, but also they're missing at the same position every single year.
Every year.
Linebackers. Right? Linebacker. They drafted Davion Taylor, linebacker, in the 3rd round in 2020. Miss. They drafted Nakobe Dean in 2022 in the 3rd round. Still don't even know if he's good or bad, can't stay on the field, right? And then Nolan Smith, they drafted him at the back end of the first round, linebacker, plays the edge, but they don't know what they want to do with him. But on here, he's the linebacker. They don't know what he is yet. He may not be able to stay healthy because of the shoulder. So they habitually, the issue is not that they're not trying to find a linebacker, they keep missing. And they can't evaluate the position.
Let me ask you this. You think last year was an anomaly for Howie and hitting on all those guys? Because
that's an anomaly for anybody.
Because this year
for
he's
that
not
many
on anybody that he's brought in.
Think about that. That's how hard it is. Free agents, they're free agents for a reason most of the time. Like
that's right.
They're hard. Like it's hard to hit on those guys. Just how it is hard to hit on a draft. Because what a guy gave you in Arizona, he may not give you in Philadelphia or however you want to slice it. So, they really struck gold. They struck gold to a level last year to the point where if they had any missteps, it would be one of the biggest blunders in Eagles history. And guess what? They lost. And they lost in the Super Bowl. We're going to look back many years from now and say, "Damn, we missed the boat on that one." Again, I want to go back to the linebacker position because I think that is the crux of their defense and why they're not that good. You keep missing at the position.
Dan Tone, this sounds eerily similar to the McNabb era.
In what way?
Missed opportunity.
Yeah. McNabb had a lot of them, though. McNabb had a lot of them. But nonetheless, though, yeah, you're right.
You know what? And I will say this. I do feel, and now I'm 30,000 feet above, and you were there more watching it every day. But to me, it seemed like he had more control of that organization than any quarterback that's been in the building in the last 24 years.
You want to know why? Now we're really getting into some territory here real quick before we get our guy. We have some time. Jason Cole doesn't come to 5:30, right?
Yes.
So listen to this. You said something. It seemed like he had the most control out of every quarterback in that organization. You want to know why? Because he was Jeffrey Lurie's first.
Oh.
Think about that.
Oh, yes.
He was Jeffrey Lurie's first, and you never forget your first. And you always let the first get away with more than the second.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And then and then eventually, and then you start learning. And then you start defining, okay, these are the qualities I want in my quarterback. These are the qualities that I don't. Jalen Hurts is a very straight narrow guy. You know what I mean? No nonsense. Not drama oriented. Not going to rock the boat as much as he can. Doesn't that fit better into what Howard Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie would do versus what Donovan McNabb did?
Let me ask you this.
They were young. They were a rookie. They had no idea what they were doing.
I get it.
They were, so yeah, I think that's why it appeared McNabb had more influence and power at that time. Because you have a rookie head coach and you have a new head coach in Andy Reid still trying to prove himself. You got a new owner trying to prove himself as well. You got this quarterback. He's the only one with real equity because he was drafted in the first round. You know what I mean? Number one overall. He was the big man on campus. You know what I mean? That's the guy that the owner is going to always look at like, hey, Donovan, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? He's his baby. It's different when you're 30 years removed or 23 years, 30 years removed from buying the team. And then all of a sudden you look at the position differently and how you want that guy to act.
Let me ask you this. Would you rather play for an asshole coach or would you rather play for a liar?
I prefer honesty more than anything.
So you'd rather play for Chip?
I didn't like him at all. That was rough. I didn't like him.
Oh, but you like the liar then?
No, I didn't say that. I said I didn't like
Chip. Well, okay, I'm confused here now. I mean, it sounds like a Nick Sirianni press conference here. Would you rather play for an asshole or would you rather play for a liar?
I'd rather play for an asshole.
Okay. Chip was an asshole. There's no question. His bedside manner was brutal. I'm not defending him. But I'd rather play for an asshole than a guy who's going to sit there and tell me one thing on a Monday, ask my entire team and my coaching staff to lie all week, and then do something completely disrespectful to people on Sunday, and then turn around and try to justify himself all week long by saying this, hey, we're doing the same shit as a year ago. It ain't us, it's the players. I mean, come on now, man.
I also I also don't want to play for a coach who's trying to play GM either. So
no, that was their mistake. Their mistake was not having,
so
again, accountability is a problem with the Eagles.
it's
They
either
don't
they,
really have checks and balances.
you know what it is?
You know, if
It's
they would
either
have checked Chip, it may have been the best thing on the planet for him. If they, you know what? Howie may have been a perfect general manager for Chip Kelly. He may have helped him be a better guy when it came to constructing deals.
Well, Chip's ego would never let that happen. So
okay, well, that's the owner's responsibility to
Exactly.
parachute in like Belichick and Brady and parachute in and not worry more about control. Okay, remember, like I said, Lombardi or control. Lurie's more concerned about control. He's not concerned about the Lombardi. That's collateral success.
Well, once you get the Lombardi, it becomes less important to you. Once you get one, I think he always cared about it, but once you get one, and it doesn't shine. It doesn't shine as much as it used to, but you still got one. You know what I mean? I think now it's about status quo, trying to maintain.
Are you kidding me?
If we win,
Super Bowl trophy. He's got that Super Bowl trophy.
You say you say it all, but you say it all the time though. It's the best, worst thing that happened to this organization.
Oh, completely.
And that's what I'm saying.
Because there's no checks and balances. Howie needs a president of an organization, but the problem would be, you know what he would name? His son.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be a true president.
Yeah, it'll be it's one of those situations that you really got to monitor, and I'm a little concerned about where this thing goes. But if I'm rolling a dice on anybody, I'm rolling a dice on Jalen Hurts. That's why, with this Giants matchup coming up, I'm rolling the dice on him. I'm betting on black. You feel me?
Oh man, we always have to end it with this. Just wondering. Yeah. I don't want to upset too many people because, Brady says something. He's a leader. Hurts said something. He's angry quarterback.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tone.
No,
I didn't mean to go politically correct.
No, listen, because sometimes the truth sends shivers down people. You know what I mean? Sometimes the truth hurts people. It's a little it's chilling. It's chilling, but it's the reality. I've seen it play out in real life.
50 million reasons too not to really kind of rock the boat too a little bit. Hey, Hey, I don't care if you're green, black, or white. Man.
More like 250.
Okay, fair enough. More like $250 million. I really don't give a shit who you look like.
Hey, $250 million. I don't care what plays you call.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I'm good with that. Tone, I appreciate it, my friend.
Yes, sir, man. It's always good.
You got it. That is our good friend Tone for the segment each and every single day at 3:30. We appreciate him coming aboard with us. All right, hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near. Shop, have a beer. Christmas shopping shouldn't be hard. Give your friends a Hooters gift card.
This year, stuff their stockings and yours too with a one-size-fits-all gift card. Buy a $25 Hooters gift card and receive a $5 Santa's bonus card. Make it Hooters for the holidays.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near. Gift cards are here. Good at Hooters everywhere now. Hooters gifts are always favored.